Wagier. Folks, it's great to see everyone in this beautiful facility here at Red River College. I'm Terry Duguid. I'm the Member of Parliament for Winnipeg South, Parliamentary Secretary to the Prime Minister and Special Water Advisor for the Prime Minister and for the Government of Canada. And indeed, it's a great pleasure to welcome you this morning and to be here with my good friend, my colleague, the Honourable Patty Hajdu, our Minister of Indigenous Services. And of course, it's so great to be here with all of you for a very, very special announcement. We are gathered here today on Treaty 1 territory, the traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, Cree, Anishinaabe, Dakota, and Dene peoples, and the homeland of the Red River Métis. And I want to thank Jamie Wilson, our former treaty commissioner, but also a leader here at Red River College, Red River Polytechnic, for receiving us today and for hosting us for this very, very important announcement. And I think you'll all agree that Red River College is a fitting location for today's event, as it reflects both the strength of our community here in Winnipeg and the value we place on education and opportunity. Today we gather to celebrate the progress we're making together to ensure that First Nations children across the country have access to safe and inspiring schools. And to begin to start us off in a good way, I would like to invite Elder Ovid Caribou to open this event with a prayer. So please join me in welcoming Elder Caribou.
Oh, thank you. I got last time I said a prayer. They said you got to speak louder. I acknowledge the tobacco, and I really appreciate the offer. Ninas kumun mantu.
Well, thank you, Elder Caribou, for those words, for starting us off in a good way. We really appreciate it, and that prayer helps ground us in this very important moment. And now it's my pleasure to welcome some of the incredible leaders whose dedication has helped bring some incredible projects to fruition, some projects that you're going to hear about shortly. I'd just like to start by recognizing Chief Kerwin Chaboyer of O-Chi-Chak-Ko-Sipi First Nation for being here today. Thank you, Chief Chaboyer. And we're going to hear a little bit from some of the leaders in some very special communities about some important initiatives. And we're going to start off with inviting Chief Larson Anderson of Norway House Cree Nation to share his thoughts. And Chief Anderson, if I could invite you to the podium.
Nancy, good morning, everyone. I want to thank the Elder for his opening prayer. It was short and sweet, but it meant a lot. I also want to thank Minister Hajdu for making her trip to Manitoba when we finally have snow. I acknowledge all the fellow chiefs, councillors from the other communities that are here to share on some good news stories. I also bring greetings from my nation. It's been a very tough week. We had some incidences that were unexpected, but we're we're working with our community ISK department to find ways to go get around the hurt and the pain that we're currently experiencing. We are, of course, talking about also with the policing situation, and I am pleased that the government is working towards the solutions even for that area. As an educated person, I did my high school in Norway House. I started my university with UCN, ended up in U of M, and getting my degree in Bachelor of Arts, and at 49 years old. So I've been through a lot. I went through many things. I sat in as a school committee person for Frontier, became a trustee of Frontier, and real notice, and I believe in the very value of what education does. My sisters, who all the teachers, vice principals, became principal. So our family was really, really involved in education back home. But at the same time, we have to continue to struggle. We have to continue to work on finding ways to create not only educational opportunities, but employment opportunities. So recently we announced that we purchased a mine on the Norway House Cree Nation resource area, and we're working forward on how do we create employment, educational opportunities, training opportunities, because ultimately, in order to gain the benefit of education, you need to have something for people to strive for. So I know that as an older person now, I've always wanted to find what the purpose is in life. What is my purpose to living in Norway House? What is my purpose in staying in Norway House? So we as leaders need to promote that. We need to find that, and within our own communities and within our own youth, so that we can have a goal to strive for. In many cases, that's been the dilemma of First Nations. We've been put into a system that was not really geared towards our history, our past. We were not settled nations or peoples. We were nomadic. We traveled the north throughout our history. But now that we are a settled people, we need to start focusing on how do we get back our rights, our love of ourselves. So that to me is what a goal that I strive to obtain. Trying to make ends meet on a daily basis, but education has a very critical role to play. And I believe that this is a vision that was made by our ancestors, our grandfathers, grandmothers back in the day when the treaties were signed. And through the claims process, we found out more and more of our history and how we came to be and what kind of struggles were existent back in the late 1800s. But the one key component, it seems to be, was education. And those are words that are Cree words, and there's not many Cree words that can express what we want as people. So we take that challenge and we continue to work our daily chores, our daily activities to make things better for our youth. We are told to look 7 generations ahead. I asked a question recently. I said, well, how many years is that? So I'm told it's 25 years. It's a generation. So it takes from the time you're born to the time you have kids, that's a generation. So you can imagine 7 times 25. It's anyone want to do the math here? So that's many, many years, 175 years, right? So that's what we look at, that's what we strive for, and that's what we need to do. But to get there, and I get challenged this a lot about leaving things for the future, looking towards the future. And the best way we can, and I found, to address the future is to do something today. That's how you can look to the future. So we are encouraged by the announcements being made today by Minister Hajdu. Obviously, that's one step closer to where we want to be. We are determined and bound and determined to get our community a new school. Not because building is in bad shape. We have the Helen Betty Osborne and the new resource center, but because of the population growth in our nation. And that's actually a good thing. You know, if you have people wanting to live, wanting to raise a family, it's important to have kids to do that. So the more kids we have, the more children we have, the better chance of our future to be something that we can all be proud of. I take some lessons from the African communities. When I was young, I questioned why so many children. The reason back then was possibly the one born today could be the person that invents and creates the solution for their situations. And I feel the same way. We have a child in our communities, in our nations. That person could be the answer to our desperate needs at times. So with that, I want to again congratulate and thank Minister Hajdu for her commitment to education in the North. We do believe that your party and your government are on the right track, and we want to be able to see and continued fulfillment of the promises and the campaign speeches that were made years ago. But I am thankful for the invitation, the opportunity to be able to thank you in public, and we are going to continue to work as hard as we can to make things work for us as well. So we thank you. On a final note, we have a term that's been really famous now for a couple of years called reconciliation, and I try to live my life on understanding what it is that we do as leaders. And reconciliation is a very important aspect of that. But I do think there's also another word that I like to use is restoration. I would like to see my nation, my people restored to where they were pre-European visit. So that takes time, that takes a lot of work, but we think that with the government that's working with us to make that happen, I think we can actually see a future where we can get up in the morning and go somewhere and feel like we belong. So I think that's the key for Norway House's continued success. So thank you. And ask me to may God bless you.
Well, thank you, Chief Anderson, for those beautiful and very powerful words about the importance of education, the importance of education in your life, the life of your community, to our future. What he didn't mention was that his daughter is in medical school, wanting to be a surgeon. So I know that the future is going to be in very, very good hands with young leaders like his daughter and leaders like him. So thank you. And next up, we have Chief Shirley Ducharme of I hope I pronounced this right, O-Chi-Chak-Ko-Sipi Cree Nation. I'm not sure if she wanted to say a few words or not. Yes, please, come and join us.
I can't see. Tansi. Kita tamiskat na aga gitu. Uta katay padihig tapin to tamagi. Tapuye hiu. Ano sagi sigak. Mistay hiu. Meduitawan. Kawi pisi at tamiskagaya. Uta hindi tayo na. My name is Shirley Ducharme, Chief of O-Chi-Chak-Ko-Sipi Cree Nation, and I welcome everyone. This is really exciting and beautiful day for us as First Nations. And I'd like to acknowledge the prayer from Elder Caribou, and also acknowledge Minister Hajdu for, inviting us here. I think it gives us an opportunity to express our heartfelt thank you to the governments today. And I also would like to acknowledge the territory, Treaty 1 territory here. Okay, I know that with the announcement coming for something that's been, a long waiting for our First Nation. And O-Pi-P-N has just recently been recognized as a band. 2005, we were recognized as a band, but still to this day, we are landless band, I guess we can so call ourselves, because we don't have the reserve land yet. And it's still in progress and time awaiting. Right now, that's our focus. I've been elected second term for O-Pi-P-N Cree Nation. I got in 2018. And this is the first day that I'd say I'm very proud that I have taken the leadership for our nation, because this is a critical time for our First Nation, that we need a facility that is safe for our students and our people that educate our children to feel safe in a building. And I know that some of you that have followed on the news, the school that our children were in, a roof collapsed. And we are in partnership with Frontier School and our First Nation. But when a structure like that starts to show deterioration, it's time for action. And today is a big day for us. It kind of starts to say, see that we are finally gonna be feeling safe for our children. Because as stated, education is such an important future for our generations to come. We rely on these young people as they are trying to learn. We rely on them that they are the future leaders, the future key people that are so needed right across the country. We are short and shortage of teachers, shortage of nurses, doctors that have to come back from their retirement just to continue to help and help our people right across the country. I think, with this announcement coming, that is something that, hang on, sorry. That is something that we all have been awaiting. And I acknowledge our leaders, our colleagues from all the First Nations for their advocacy. We continue to advocate for our nations. And I think one of the greatest priorities that we have in our nations is the education component for our children. And I acknowledge them today for their continued, work and making sure that this has come through, this is happening. Igonigan nasko magogo, ganiganska go titania, yegomistega mas amustama. Tapui kistita kwan kiskinamatuin. Magano sagi sigak, yegun pita magainan, Tatinoga, Ego Mawats and Giskiti and Josim Sinana Goche. So on behalf of Opipanapiwin Cree Nation, members, leaders, elders, and our children, we want to express our heartfelt thank you to the governments, to the minister, Hajdu, thank you so much. And on behalf of our nation, we say thank you to the, I'm sorry, I'm repeating myself. Thank you to the work of the government and reconciliation, understanding, recognizing, and respecting the needs of our children's education. And given the opportunity to have a safe learning environment, to learn, empowering, to become the critical future, greatly needed, different careers that are so drastically needed at this time. And also recognizing in particular the right of Indigenous families and communities to retain shared responsibilities for upbringing, training, education, well-being of our children. It is a constant reminder that it is the rights of a child, education, the right of a child that we all, have our mindset. We are all here for the children, to the best, to give them the best, to recognize them. But the Lord has given us these children, loan us these children, and we must do what we can for them. They can't do this right now. They depend on us as parents, grandparents, and also leaders and ministers. And I'd like to say, our children, especially with this movement in our First Nation, will never have to leave our community. We get this school up to grade 12. Right now, our nation only has up to grade 10. And our young people are still expected and want to complete their high school, and they have no choice but to leave our community. I don't want to think about residential school, but they have no choice to leave their parents at an early age, which is not right. And I know, it is in the hopes that this school will stand in our First Nation, and that grade 12 is being accommodated. That's what we had planned for, that our kids will be there a bit longer to be with their parents and get the foundation that needs to be in place to keep our language and our traditional ways still. There is that need. They don't need to leave our communities. And to end today, I'd like to say, we shake your hand today, Minister, and we will and hope continue to walk together in harmony. As we all know, this is very meaningful. We work together and we fully understand our visions, and that you support us as First Nations awi gusani tapui nanaskaman.
Well, thank you, Chief Ducharme, for acknowledging what a special day this is, and thank you for your leadership in bringing us to this day, and just highlighting once again the importance of education to the future of your community and so many communities. I'd like to acknowledge Councillor Alwyn Keeper from Titasquik Cree Nation here on behalf of recently elected Chief Doreen Spence. Welcome, Councillor Spence. Great to have you with us today. And then I believe our final speaker from one of our communities is from Garden Hill First Nation. We have a number of members of the Garden Hill First Nation with us today. And I'd like to invite to the podium Kurt Mason, the Director of Education, if he'd like to say a few words.
Hello, Dance. Our leadership couldn't make it today. They were traveling back home to Garden Hill. Me and the board are here for meetings regarding. We were trying to kickstart getting our school, and we didn't hear about this until after our meeting with INAC people, and we're happy. We're very happy that Garden Hill will be receiving, will be getting a school in the future. It is very hard right now in our community. Our school has been closed for 2 weeks already because we have a heating issue with one of the high schools. And that school, when the electricians came to our community, we had to send for them from Winnipeg, and one of the things they said was, "You're lucky that the school didn't burn down because of that electric issue we're having at the high school." So after what they told me, I had my mind was set on the kids because of our school. I was thinking what would happen if that our electric system that controls the heat caught on fire, and we had kids. We have about 600 high school students attending regularly, and after the electrician said, "You guys are lucky that the school didn't get on fire, caught on fire." I was uneasy, and we tried to do something quick or make a first step to getting our new school. And I know it's a long process. It doesn't happen overnight. But for some reason, it happened overnight. I'm happy that the government is giving Garden Hill a school. I know it won't happen to 5 or whatnot, but my mind is set on future kids for their safety. I don't have to worry about them. I always look at the grade 1s and kindergartens. They'll be going to high school in the future, and I'm happy that they're going to have a new school. They don't have to worry about fires. They don't have to worry about heat. They don't have to worry about mold. We have all of those problems at the high school right now. Whatever problem First Nation schools see, we have that at our high school. And we're still trying to maintain a good quality education for our kids. We won't stop because of mold. We're trying to deal with it. We're trying to fix it. After COVID, it was hard, especially in the northern communities. Nobody didn't want to come to our northern communities. Certified teachers didn't want to come. It was hard after COVID. Closing the school down for a year and past couple of years, we're finally rolling. Education is coming back to our community, but still we have issues with school. We have programs coming to Garden Hill. We have a teacher program that started this year. We have a EA training that's happening that started this year. We have plumbing that started this year. But where can we accommodate these trainings? At our high school, and our high school is closed right now. So we need to, I'm happy the government is establishing and getting us a new school. We can utilize the building to get more trades in our school, not just high school. So I wasn't supposed to, this was, the chief called me this morning. He said, get your speech ready. And I thought he was joking. I thought he was joking, Chief Dino Flett. I told him, are you serious? He said, yeah, get your speech ready. I didn't plan to talk that long, but I wanted to acknowledge the government for giving us a new school. And the chief said on behalf of Garden Hill Chief and Council, we'd like to thank the government as well. And and the last thing the chief told me was, at least don't faint in front of everybody. So, Chief, if you're listening, Chief Dino Flett, and through the news, I'm still standing. I'm standing on behalf of Garden Hill and our people of Manitoba. Thank you. Oh yeah, one other thing Chief mentioned was, he said, don't be nervous, don't be stressed. And I told him, I'm not. I'm used to stress environment. I'm not only an educator. I've been teaching high school for 9 years, and I've been a director for 3 years. But that's not my other field. I volunteer a lot for our community in Island Lake. I'm a paramedic. I'm a search and rescue coordinator, and I'm a certified search and recovery diver. So stress is nothing new to me. I can deal with this. It's not hard as my other volunteer, what I do for the community, not just for Garden Hill, but for Island Lake and for our nation across Canada. Because our diving team, we traveled across Canada. We went to Quebec. We did a couple of dives there. So Chief, I'm not, if you're listening, thank you for giving me this position to speak on behalf of Garden Hill. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Well, thank you, Kurt, for highlighting some of the challenges of education in northern Manitoba and for all of the things you do for your own community and for other communities. Folks, I mentioned that we have Chief Kerwin Shaboyer with us from O-Chi-Chak-Ko-Sipi First Nation, and he would like to offer a few words as well. Chief.
Good morning, everybody. I'd like to thank the elder for the prayer and for everybody showing up here today for this great announcement for O-Chi-Chak and the other communities. And I'd like to thank the current working government for honoring their commitment for our new school and the Minister, Patty Hajdu. Thank you. But it's almost 3 years ago to the day that I was elected chief, and the biggest thing that the community wanted was a new school. But what was holding it up was we didn't have a water plant. It couldn't provide enough water. So since that day, it's been a fight to get a new water plant. Yesterday, the letter of awardment to the GC was awarded. So that's happening in the community right now. And so that allowed us to get a new school. And this announcement is basically the same day, the day after. So that's really something. But it's approximately just over 30 years ago, we were built a temporary school. And we've since outlived it. And it's going to be good to see our kids go to K-12 in our community and have the parental support instead of having to leave. So we look forward to better things for our students. And like I said, I didn't prepare a speech, so Miigwech. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Chief Chaboyer, and thank you to all of our community leaders for your thoughtful remarks and for your ongoing commitment to your communities. And folks, I think we've seen leadership on display and making good things happen for their communities. It is now my great honor and pleasure to introduce the Honorable Patty Hajdu, Minister of Indigenous Services, my good friend that I get to sit behind in the House of Commons. And let me tell you, folks, she is just a passionate advocate for First Nations, for Indigenous people, extremely committed to reconciliation, and I see her working so hard, a champion for clean water. I'm glad Chief Chaboyer mentioned that, championing the passage of C-61 through the House of Commons. Almost there, Patty. It has aged her 10 years, I think, but she still looks great. She still looks great. The First Nations Clean Water Act, and I know also very, very committed to eliminating boil water advisories once and for all. Everyone in Canada should be able to drink and use clean water. And like all of us gathered here today, passionate about education, passionate about First Nations children's education and the important role that plays in creating a bright future for our young people. So without further delay, please welcome Patty Hajdu.
Well, thanks, Terry. You made me laugh. You made me cry. You made me grimace. I did have a bit of fear when you talked about sitting behind me in the House of Commons. I'm not always like, well, I'm from Northern Ontario, so, I'm a little bit spicy. There you go. That's the clear language version of what I was hoping you wouldn't say, but you did say it. It is such an honor to be with you here all today, and what an amazing group of speakers we've heard from, and it makes my job so much easier to talk about the funding that the communities are going to receive for these schools, because they've all brought to life the challenges, why the work is so important, the history of how we got here. I'm just so grateful for the words that all of you have shared. I do want to start by thanking Jamie for welcoming us here at the college to host this event. And I understand you yourself have worked in many different ways in the space of Indigenous people's rights and reconciliation. And I can tell you that I do want to take a moment to thank the officials here at Indigenous Services Canada and the regional director and Rod and others that are working every single day to bring to life the vision that our government has on how to do this work with respect and self-determination and speed. It's hard, and we put them through a lot. This is an ambitious government in terms of this particular portfolio. And there's never enough money to go around because the gap is giant, and we still make them find ways to say yes. And so thank you so much for all your hard work. I know you have very good relationships in the region. Elder, thank you for opening so eloquently. I didn't understand what you said, but I think it's important for non-Indigenous people to understand what has been taken away. by colonialism. And one of those things, as you would know, as a keeper of the language, is language. And so when I hear people speaking in their language, I'm always deeply moved, even though I don't understand the words, because I know you're holding that language, not just for you and your family, but for the next generation. And so I want to thank you for what you do. And I know there are many more things that you likely do as a leader in your community, but thank you for sharing those words. There are so many things I want to say. I was taking notes like crazy because the wisdom coming out of our speakers was just so powerful. But I think, I want to start with the first speaker that we heard from. And, Chief Anderson spoke about his own personal journey of how hard it was as an adult learner to graduate. And the first thing that tweaked in me was a feeling of recognition. Because that was my story too, Chief. I graduated a little earlier than you, but I was the first in my family to graduate with a post-secondary education. And now my boys both have diplomas and trades degrees. And we changed a generation of poverty. My mom was a school bus driver, incredibly hardworking, worked her whole life, really difficult situations, and retired without a pension. And that is the reality for people. They do really hard work, oftentimes underpaid and under-recognized, and then their own final years are in poverty. And a part of that is the lack of opportunity for education. And when you compound that with the history of this country deliberately using tools of family separation, some say torture, and I agree, to undermine what Chief Anderson spoke about, which is the purpose of life, to beat down the spirit of peoples of this land. It's no wonder that Indigenous peoples suffer with some of the worst rates of many things. And yet, I do see the flame of restoration alive in communities and in all of the cities and towns of our country. At different stages, to be clear, so much work more to do, to be clear. But I do see a reckoning in this country that a great harm has been done and continues to be perpetrated in some spaces, very many spaces. But I'm starting to see a recognition amongst Canadians that reconciliation is not just the right thing to do, it's the smart thing to do for our country, because other speakers, the chiefs and the Director of Education, Kurt, spoke about the huge labor shortage that exists in our country. The fact that we don't have enough people to build the bridges and to be the teachers and to be the nurses and to be the doctors. And that keeping people out of spaces and out of opportunities is not just harmful and hurtful for those community members and for those communities, but it's also hurtful and harmful to our country. And I hope, and I'm starting to see in the work that I do with everyday Canadians, a recognition of the importance of this journey together, coming to terms with what has happened and how we fix these systems together so that we can all have a better and brighter future. Because what Chief Anderson said about purpose of life is so important to hold on to. You know, oftentimes my work involves, making calls to chiefs like Chief Anderson about tragedies that have happened in communities, about states of emergency related to substance use and mental health, about the shortage of resources to deal with the most acute situations in communities. And so much of that is related to what I think was really eloquently spoken about through Chief Ducharme in terms of the real theft, if you will, of families, the real theft of purpose, the real theft of community. And we have an opportunity as a country to change that. And that's what happened 9 years ago. We elected a Liberal government as a country in part because of a commitment on reconciliation. Thank you, Chiefs, for saying that you see some progress. I was reflecting on Chief Anderson's comment of doing the math on what 7 generations is, 175 years, I think we figured out. So that's about as long depends on how you count, but that's the time that Canada has been colonizing people. I hope it doesn't take 7 generations to heal. Today's announcement is about healing. I'm really, really happy that Chief Chaboye talked about how not having a water plant limited the build of a school. So many people, including myself before I had this file, did not understand how interconnected infrastructure is. And yet that is how the government of Canada has funded things in very piecemeal ways for communities that in many cases need that support the most. And so the work that we're doing on water and water plants and roads and northern roads and schools and civil engineering for increased lots and housing, all is connected. People can't learn if they don't have a good house, but they also can't learn if they don't have a school in their community, but they also can't learn if they don't have water in their house. And you know, there's a term for that in public health. It's called the social determinants of health. And the fewer you have, the poorer your health is. And it's not because you're not trying hard. It's because the circumstances of your birth have limited your opportunity, and we can change that. Every single year, and sometimes all year round, depending on who, people wear Every Child Matters pins, and they wear Every Child Matters t-shirts. This is a huge improvement from 9 years ago, where we didn't hear people talk about that. But the next step in the work that we have to do as a country is to understand fundamentally what that means. We can't put the pin on and go home the next day, the day after Truth and Reconciliation Day, and take our t-shirt off and not keep fighting for Indigenous kids. Every Child Matters can't just be a slogan. It can't just be a t-shirt. It has to be pursuing action to make sure that no matter where a kid lives in this country, no matter where a child is born, no matter the challenging circumstances, they too feel like they have purpose and hope. So today's announcement is about schools, 5 schools, but it's more than schools. It is about the next steps on reconciliation. It is about the next steps on restoration. It is the next steps on self-determination. And so I'm just thrilled to be here. I'm so honored to do this work. I wake up every day excited about this job. Even though it's the hardest thing I've ever done, it's the best thing I've ever had the opportunity to do. And so thank you very much for including me in today's event. And thank you very much to my incredible colleague, Terry Duguid. He's very modest. He is the Prime Minister's advisor on water. So he's been pushing just as hard as I have on the right to clean water in First Nations. And I have to tell you that I know this is an announcement about schools, but I'm pretty excited about this act because for the very first time in this country, if this law is passed, it will ensure and enshrine a human right to drinking water on First Nations. That doesn't exist in almost all of the provinces. Quebec has something kind of, but in fact, it doesn't exist anywhere else. And the reason why we got that amendment is because First Nations insisted that it was in. And we fought for that amendment to be included. And if this law passes, and we're very close to this getting to Senate, then for the very first time in the history of this country, First Nations people will have a human right to drinking water. That's a big deal. And I am so, so grateful to be able to do this work beside you. Thank you very much, Miigwech, for the opportunity to say a few words.
Well, thank you, Minister Hajdu, Patty, for those very, very inspiring words. Again, your unwavering commitment to Indigenous children and families and to clean water. It truly is amazing what you have done. And folks, I hope you'll agree with me that the Prime Minister picked the right person for this role and the right champion. As a local member of Parliament, I see some of the progress we've made here in Winnipeg and across Canada. And it's more than building schools. I think you'll agree. It's about building futures and investing in our most precious resource, our children. So today, these school projects are a reflection of our belief that every child deserves opportunity to learn, dream, and succeed in safe and inspiring spaces, whether they are here in Winnipeg or in Garden Hill First Nation or in any one of the communities that we have talked about today. So let us celebrate, let us acknowledge this special day. And I think next up, we're going to move to a special part of today's program, a gift presentation to recognize the partnerships and the hard work that have made these announcements possible, and particularly to thank leaders of our communities for bringing us to this day. So I think I'm going to need a little help on this. All righty. Oh, here we go. Yeah. So perhaps Chief Chaboyer, you spoke last, so you get first. Yeah. Yeah. And Chief Anderson? Chief Shirley Descharme. Councillor Keeper. And educator par excellence, Kurt Mason. I hope I haven't forgotten anyone. We're good? Thank you once again, everyone, for sharing these important moments with us, and thank you so much. That brings to a conclusion our special event, but I believe we're going to do a Q&A with media. All right. We're going to do a photo first. Okay.